Hello, everybody. This is Cheryl Abram and Person Centered Cyber. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I have decided to go ahead and begin a series, okay, called So That's, right? Because I love breaking things down. Tonight, I was working with Dr. Phillips on coming up with a metaphor for Nmap, okay? And I love doing stuff like that, right? Because cybersecurity and IT, it's so technical. The language is just technical, technical, technical. Okay. Even though we actually use a lot of metaphor, right? And the stuff that we talk about memory. You know what I mean? And we use things like that to help represent what we're doing. Well, when I first came into the field, I just didn't get it. A lot of this stuff I really didn't get. I learned it. I learned the definition. I did what I needed to do to pass exams and have conversations with people. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, what the hell are y'all talking about? Okay. And I figured I'd just pick it up, sooner or later. All right. But sometimes when I came right out to ask people, well, what does this actually mean? I would get the definition, from the book or something, and that's not what I was looking for. Like, I really want to know what does this mean? Okay. And if I heard somebody tell me that bits are ones and zeros one more time, okay, I'm like, no, that's not what it is. Okay. Anyway, tonight I want to talk about what an IP address is. All right. Now, what I'm going to need you to do is to forget what you heard. Okay. I mean, go ahead and read the definition so you can pass your test. Go ahead and do that. But here in the real world, okay, we're going to talk about what this thing actually is. And what I'm going to tell you tonight, I promise you've not heard before. Okay. And I'm going to tell you something else. I will add to it before I take it away. All right. So let's get started, because I don't want these to be too long. I just want to go ahead and, get it out there and give you a good idea of what these things really, really are. Okay. Because the way we talk about them, like that's not it. All right. So, and another reason I'm doing this too is because IT and cybersecurity is not mysterious. All right. It's not some ethereal, universe type cyberspace is way out. No. Okay. Everything is right here. Okay. Right here in your house, wherever you are right now. All right. It's not mysterious. It's not hard to understand. You can touch everything. Okay. You can touch it. You can have a really good example. Oh, it's just like that. Okay. And we need to make it more every day. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it is. It's part of the circle of life. The circle of life. That's what it is. All right. So here we go. Now, first, so I'm going to use a couple terms in here that I'm going to come back and give you all a so that's for that particular term. Okay. But I have to, build up to the IP address a little bit. So first of all, I want to tell you logical. Anytime you hear logical, okay, normally we hear it with physical. You have the physical, then you have the logical. All right. Logical doesn't mean it makes sense, which is what I thought when I first logical. Like, what the hell does that mean? Right? Logical just means it's some instructions or directions somebody wrote. Okay. Something that's logical. It's either instructions or directions or both. Right. So directions, like you put an address in your GPS. All right. The directions to get to that place is logical. All right. Now, once you get there, I want you to do something. All right. So let's say I give you a recipe for an apple pie. All right. Now, here are instructions for you to bake this pie. Here's a recipe. Okay. Directions and instructions. Logical. That's it. Okay. So an IP address is a logical address. It's directions. Okay. It's directions. All right. Now, let's start a little big here, okay? Because an IP or internet protocol, okay, but that actually stands for something else too, okay? But I'm not going to get to that here. I'm going to get to that a little later, okay? But let's just go with what they tell us for right now, all right? So if we start a little big with the IP address as infrastructure, okay, let's think of it as infrastructure, right? Because if you did not know this, IP addresses are being sold like real estate, okay? When Radio Shack went out of business, and I think they're trying to come back again, they sold their IP addresses. I forget who bought them, maybe Microsoft or something, but for like $4 million, okay? IP addresses are like real estate, all right? So let's start at that level, okay? So let's say you have a block, your ISP, if it's Verizon or AT&T or whomever, okay, has purchased a block of IP addresses, all right? So that's like your zip code. Think of that as your zip code, okay? And think about how big your zip code, you know, all the stuff that's in your zip code, all right? Now, from there, from your zip code, you get to your area code, okay? So they parse them out a little bit, right? So now you have your area code, which is those 3 digits that you know, on your phone number, those first 3 digits, right? Your area code, it shrinks down, you know, a little bit from, so you have several area codes in your zip code, right? All right. Now, for the IP address that we think about, the thing that gives us our, we have our private IP address on our local area network. And then you got the public that faces the internet, right? You know, get our router and all that stuff. Okay. So now when you think of that, normally they tell us, well, that's like your address, right? For your house, your address. No, it's not. It's not the address to your house. Let me tell you what's going on here. What is your house on? Like whether it's your house, you live in an apartment, or whatever, you in a tent somewhere, it don't matter. What has to be there first, okay? First, you need a lot, L-O-T, okay? Before you can have a house, a trailer, or whatever you living in, there has to be land there. You understand? That land is called a lot in most places, and there's a lot number there. So that's the space that your house gonna go in, okay? That's what that is. And you cannot even get an address until you first, so if there's an empty lot, okay, where a house or a trailer or something is gonna go, there is no address, there's just the lot number or the lot address. In some places, you at least have to have a driveway or like the frame of a house before they will give you a home address, okay? So forget about an IP address is your house. No, it's not, okay? Listen to me, okay? Hey, NC worker, how you doing? So what's the equivalent of land, okay? Because that IP address is giving you directions to the land, all right? What is the digital equivalent of land? Now let's think about what land is. Land ain't going nowhere. It's here. It's here. All right, right? It's permanent, all right? It ain't going nowhere. Your house can get knocked down, it can burn up, it can do all that stuff. Hey, Professor Black Ops, so glad to see you. A whole bunch of stuff can happen to your house. You can have ghosts up in there, Amityville, that thing in the basement telling you to get out and it just implode. I mean, all kind of stuff can happen to the house, right? But the land ain't going nowhere. So the equivalent of land, okay, the digital equivalent of land is memory, okay? It's the space. That IP address is pointing to space. It's pointing to memory, because once you get to once the IP address says, oh, she over here, it's over there. Now what? Then what? Okay, there's no computing going on without memory. None. Show me some computing without memory. Okay. And we're going to get to bits and all that stuff in another video. Okay. So your IP, I know you hear about it's the parking lot, it's, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, they tried it. They tried it. They tried it. Okay. The IP address is directions to where it's going to go down. Okay. It's always going to go down in memory. All right. You understand? So now there's a whole bunch of stuff, you know, of course, that goes along with that. But this is very important because, first of all, like I said before, IP, when you get large blocks, CIDR blocks, CIDR, CIDR blocks of IP addresses, right? That stuff goes for millions, okay? Real estate, land, if you have land, okay? If you own some land, you got it going on. You understand what I'm saying? Who owns all these IP addresses? At first, you know, when they first came out, they were just like giving the stuff away. Don't that sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? That IP addresses are pointing to land, okay, right? And they were just giving them away in the beginning, right? Oh, you get an IP address, you get an IP address, you get an IP address, right? What does that sound like? If we know history, all right, and who got the land? You understand? Oh, okay. So it's all going down on land. Okay, it's very, IP addresses are very valuable. The space, okay, is very valuable. you know what I'm saying? So there you go. So that's what an IP address not just is, but is for. Okay, is for, right? It's pointing, and it's not just one place, right? Because it's not really just about this one device, you know, or the one I'm talking on right now, because in this one device, you have several interfaces, right? Several ways to get in and to get out. It's not just one thing, okay? So that's what an IP address is. So I'm gonna be back, y'all, with other so that's. I'm gonna talk about what a bit is, which is super interesting. Super interesting. And let me tell you right now, you will forget about ones and zeros. Forget it. Okay, just stop. That is not what a bit is. All right, it's not. Okay. What else we gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about what physical and logical actually are. Okay. Physical is not what you think it is. I'm telling you. It's not what you think it is, all right? We already talked a little bit about logical, but I'm going to get a little bit more into that, all right, and give you some really concrete, very digestible and understandable examples of what that is. We're going to talk about Nmap, you know, different tools. What are they? You know, if you had to explain this to an 8-year-old, okay, what would you say? Right? So we're going to talk about the various concepts, the various tools. If there's something you want me to explain, or ports too. That was a big one for me. Okay, ports. Okay, so what is a port? Really, what is it? Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Now, if there's something you want me to, you know, to come up with a metaphor for, and I have a lot of them, okay, to make it very easy to understand. Just let me know. Let me know in the comments, and I will be happy to come back and do a so that's for that particular concept. Okay, so I got to go clean my bedroom. It's a mess. All right, and I got to clean it if I go to bed. So thank y'all for being here, Professor Black Ops, NC Worker. I will see y'all again very, very soon. Okay, y'all have a good night. Bye-bye.